Yeah, hey Matt, how are you?
Good.
Good. Um, just Wisconsin, they're kind of the same team personnel wise as last year. Is there some familiarity there, or are they different this year?
No, they're very similar. Um, Obviously they have a very good mix of guys. They have good guards, uh, good forwards, good centers, guys that can stretch the defense. But obviously Dimitri Trice has had a great year for them. But uh, overall, just a really competitive group. Guys that won the Big Ten last year, and they're just a tough cover. You're gonna play a team that's not going to beat themselves. Tough, skilled, interchangeable pieces. I really like with Wall and Davis. What it complements to their guards and what it complements to their bigs. It's kind of the connecting pieces in my mind because it gives them versatility. It gives them length. Um, from a defensive standpoint, I think those two guys can grow into like what Wagner and Livers have been able to do defensively. And because it's hard. It's hard to score against people that are at kind of that 2, 3, 4 spots that can really defend. You throw good size from their center position, experience, quick, intelligent guards and Trice and Davison and it's just a really good team. Obviously, well coached by great guard, and it's going to be a tough game for us.
How is your team? You always talk about always want your teams on edge and all that stuff. How is this team done, relative to its age and experience level coming into the season with handling success?
Yeah, we've been all right in that area. Most of the time, I think you see some like I don't know if there's a team out there that doesn't have some poor starts sometimes. We've had some poor starts. We had one other night against Penn State in the start of the second half. We're very fortunate that we kept, kind of scoring with them. We had a 15-point lead. They got, flipped to 9 real quick. And then we got it, we reacted to that and got it back there and started playing better, but it wasn't a great start. And so, for the most part, it's been okay, but, you're always leery of that as a coach, even though you might have some success in that area, it can always rear its ugly head. And, it's just such an important part of games is, the start of each half, obviously the finish of the first half, and obviously the most important is the finish, of the game. It's those areas are so important. But just overall, trying to keep them, building off of things. We watched some things that we had breakdowns in Penn State, and not letting yourself get really too full of yourself is more than anything. Just don't let winning 3 games in a row soften you or get you away from being detail oriented. Keep striving in those areas, keep working in those areas, and try your best to stay on edge.
Did you see a certain attentiveness in practice last week? Because they seemed really prepared, especially defensively, for what Penn State was going to do. Did you see a team that was really kind of dialed in when you had a few
Uh,
days to practice, or what?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. I wouldn't after watching tape. I wouldn't take it past that. I wouldn't take it past good.
Mhm.
Penn State missed some open shots they normally make. We were able to be active and get our hands on some things. The thing we were able to do is be able to get some turnovers and turn them into points. And sometimes we have games where that doesn't happen, period. We might get some turnovers, but we don't turn them into points. And so that was great to see that, it's just being up our line and getting some deflections and getting some steals and then going to the other end and getting some easy ones. You got to score some easy ones somehow, some way versus quality teams. But no, I thought we were good. And after watching the tape, I definitely didn't think we were great. I think there's still room for us to get better. We still had some guys not totally locked into how we were guarding everything. And we had some breakdowns, and they just didn't capitalize. And I think we got the breaks on those type of things. But overall, it's good to see. It's good to go on the road, and we've played 17 games, and 10 of them have been on the road, and so to be able to finish 5-5, even though we'd like to have a couple of them back, I think is once again good. But we can get better. We have good pieces. We have growing pieces. We have some guys that from week to week are getting better, but we still have from week to week making some of the same mistakes.
Mhm.
It's really hard to, I don't envy your guys' position because it's really hard to evaluate things when you don't know everything what's going on in terms of like how you guard certain action or how you guard certain ball screen action, or, where we're giving them sometimes some things differently. And sometimes you make those mistakes and people don't make you pay. And sometimes you make those mistakes and they do. The whole point for us is to really, eliminate those mistakes. And whenever people are scoring on us, they're scoring on us the way we want them to. And so those are kind of it's what you get to when you say you can live with something. We're going to defend it a certain way. And if they score on us this way, then we'll live with it. We won't live with the breakdown, though. And that's what we got to keep working on.
You've gotten a ton of points in the paint the last 2 games. I know that's always the priority, but is there anything kind of behind that productivity lately? I think it was like 38 at Nebraska and 36 against Penn State.
Right. Well, I think, Jaden playing more, he gets in the paint,
Yeah.
He gets by his guy more. I think that helps. Obviously, we have a game plan to go inside and to be able to get the ball to the paint. The one thing about getting deep post ups is, you're going to get them in foul trouble earlier. You're going to get in the bonus earlier. If you can drive the ball and get to the rim, you're going to get the ball where you want it to be. You're going to get more rhythm threes that way. When the ball gets deeper in the post, you're going to get more rhythm threes. When the ball gets driven in the post under control, playing on 2 feet, you're going to get more rhythm threes. It doesn't guarantee anything, but after you look at, the data and the numbers, it just makes sense to live in the paint, and it makes sense defensively to keep the ball out of the paint. So yeah, it's an influence, but it's always been an influence. I just think we're kind of getting better at picking our spots.
Right. And just the last thing for me, can I just get you to say a couple words about Larry, what he meant to you as a person and just what he meant to your program?
Well, Cliz was somebody that, had a lot of passion for Purdue. And I think that's what probably jumps out more than anything. He was a great broadcaster. He was a great guy, great friend. But his passion for Purdue was unmatched. And I think, that's something that you can't have enough in your program. And, he was great. He was great at calling a game, but more than anything, he was great at just, caring and, wanting to do anything in his power, to help our product. And I think that's what you want in your program, people that care, people that, he just wanted to see Purdue win. He was very, very passionate about Purdue.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, Matt, assuming Brandon still comes off the bench this week, I mean, what do you need anything different from him as opposed to when he was starting? And, how do you think that transition, it didn't go well because he got in foul trouble the other night, but what do you need from him off the bench?
That was my answer. You stole my don't foul. Just because you're not starting doesn't mean you can't finish. But if you're going to go out there and foul 4 times in 10 minutes, you're going to make it hard on yourself. So, it's hard for him. He started every game for us. He's had a very good year for a freshman. And these are kind of the decisions as you grow older and in coaching that, that become pretty easy, to be honest with you, because you got to do what's best for Purdue. And the one thing after I felt like, I just wasn't going to put Sasha back in the starting lineup, even though he probably would want that. And that would have been the best thing for Sasha, but I didn't think it was the best thing for us because I wanted to see how he went through things. For me, this wasn't a sprained ankle or, something like that. I've just watched a lot of guys that, have these pauses from COVID. They come back and they're just not the same player right away. It takes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They think they are. But for a guy that can really shoot basketball like him and in space, the floor, I just wanted to kind of see that and just kind of have a pulse on what was going on. So as it went forward, especially after how he played in the Nebraska game, like there's no question that I was going to get him back in there because of how he balances things out. Now, what happens in time with everything is now you're sure that you're going to play him and start him. Now, what's the best mix going forward with our other guys? And obviously, I think the balance of it with Eric Hunter and Jaden, made sense for us. It wasn't anything, against Brandon. It just was. I just felt that was the right mix for how everybody was playing at this time. And but it's hard. That's a hard thing for a young player to go through because technically he didn't do anything wrong, even though you can watch film and pick at every single player who plays in college basketball, but I just felt like that was the right thing to do. And for him, he has to, really just be able to adjust to the difference of, coming off the bench versus starting. He's got to get yourself mentally prepared and not try to fight his way back through it, doing things that he can't do. I think that's what happens a little bit when you press. You foul, you take a bad shot. That's going to make it worse. And so just trying to be there for him and help him kind of through this process. Sometimes he's a really competitive guy. Sometimes competitive guys, it's hard for them to process that because they want to go out and fight their way through it when, you can play hard, but you also got to play smart.
Just the Nebraska game still on the table to get rescheduled, or?
It's not. We're kind of waiting here. It doesn't look that way. But I don't think anything's final, but it's looking like that game's probably not going to get played. But we're still waiting on. I talked with somebody from the office yesterday about maybe some possibilities, but I don't know.
Does some of it depend on your positioning in the stand?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, from our standpoint is like, you want to keep your focus on the next game. So any speculation towards that and answering your question gets me away from our next game. I don't want to do that, even though I would talk to you off the record, but I just, I think when you get ahead of yourself, you're about ready to get beat.
Right.
That's just the way I feel. Doesn't mean I'm right, but anytime I've ever gotten ahead of myself as a player or a coach, and like you start to, you're getting ready to get beat. And I got a lot of respect for Greg Gard. I got a lot of respect for Wisconsin. Those guys are Big Ten champs, So it speaks for itself. They're a tough team, and that's where our focus is.
With Zoom, there's no more off the records. All right. Thanks, Matt.
There you go.
Anyone else for Matt?
I've got a few for Matt.
Tom.
Matt, when Eric's really kind of become that really solid defensive stopper for you at his position and such, did you see that potential in him coming in? And can you talk a little bit about his growth defensively for you?
In high school, he was more of a scorer, even though he did a pretty good job playmaking in high school too, even though he has some big time numbers scoring the basketball. I think how he came into college and who he was around and who he had to guard. You saw some of the guys on our team, and when you're trying to find your way in the lineup and you play 10 to 12 minutes as a freshman, and you quickly figure out like, all right, I can't turn the ball over, and I got to guard somebody, and I got to know what the hell's going on. Like probably those three things, if you got some gray matter about you, you figure it out because it's so personal. It's like, okay, this is how I want to play, but I can't play that way unless I can get on the court. And so until you can get to that point, unless you're just special and you're someone who can really, really score the basketball, and it's just off the charts that you bring something like that to the table, you quickly figure it out. And that's what he's been able to do. He's figured out from a defensive standpoint, knowing what's going on. And he's not perfect in those areas, nor is anybody else, but he's become a pretty good defensive player. And at times we don't always have him on that guy because we will put him on the guy that brings up the ball a lot of times, unless we have some different lineups that are out there. But no, he's done a good job. And he's been able to build from one year to the next. I think your knowledge is so important, and just trying to be as knowledgeable as you can about your opponent and what's going on. He's done a good job.
I asked him about guarding Trice and such, and where he sort of ranks in tough covers in the Big Ten. He had him right up there. I mean, when you watch Trice on film, he brings a lot to the table, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got it on a string. His start to stop. You can hesitate. You can change direction. He can make pull-up threes. He's got a good intermediate game. He can get to the rim. Each year he's kind of, kept adding something to his game. I know he had the 1 year where he was hurt and didn't play, but he's a tough cover. Like you have to make him make the tough ones. And as you saw the other night, he's capable of making those tough ones, but those are the ones that you have to live with. You have to live with him making really, really tough shots and just try your best to get him out of rhythm.
You've had the luxury of having that double bye in the Big Ten tournament a handful of times, and the way things broke last week, you're sort of control your own destiny, I suppose, now with that. When you're trying to play that many games back-to-back days, that really does make a difference, doesn't it?
No question. Especially, in this situation, because you could get heavyweights all across the board. You could get some, no matter who you play, you're going to play somebody really good, but you could end up playing, top 10, top 20 teams every single game. And, when you kind of want that too, like you would rather engage that way with teams. It's just so hard to move the needle from an NCAA standpoint at that point, unless you can get, a couple top 10 teams and be able to knock them off. That is, the situation that we're under right here. But it's also something that's promising. That's what you want. You want to be able to move the needle a little bit. But it is difficult. Winning one game is difficult, let alone 3 or 4.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep, no problem. Thanks, guys.
No, I've got one.
Oh, I got one.
Yeah, a couple more. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is just. What do you think has been the key to Trayvon Williams developing into this? He's up for some national awards and everything. Why do you think he made the leap?
Well, he's a good player. I don't know if he made the leap as much as he just kept progressing like he has been. He's in better shape this year. He's knowledgeable about what's going on. He can pass the ball. He can score with his back to the basket. He's a very instinctual rebounder. He's had all those qualities before. He just is played in more games now in more season. So, and we rely a lot on him. We use him maybe more than anybody in the country. I don't know the latest numbers here in the last couple of weeks, but we use him a lot. There's a lot of, we're on him a lot too, because there's a lot of responsibility when you play through somebody like we do with him.
Coach, you're a top 25 team, just coming into this week in March. You already surpassed your win total from last season. Just curious about big picture, what you've seen in terms of, you talked about this being a growing team, but kind of the growth and development into this season compared to last season, just where you are.
Yeah, last season wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought. We won 5 top 25 games, which I think is a pretty impressive stat. There's a lot of people that would like that, supposedly in a down year. We just offensively we just didn't have that consistency offensively, shooting the basketball, decision making. And so we had a lot of young guys this year. And so I think that, that growth, we've had some injuries. We had, one situation with Sasha with COVID. And so with those opportunities, when Eric Hunter and Jaden and Sasha's been out, other people have been able to play and be able to play a lot. We've been able to grow and, string together some wins. And you just want to be able to, to continue that. But I like our young guys. I like our older guys. I like all of our guys have helped us, throughout the season. We've kept a good attitude. Some guys have really sacrificed. And that's what you want. That's what you want, in a season, to see that growth. I told them at the beginning of February. February's people, teams, individuals, you either keep going, you don't stay the same. You either start moving up or you start moving down. And a lot of people get beaten in February and early March. It's just the way it is. But how are you going to handle your success and how are you going to handle your failure? And I think our guys have done a pretty good job with it, but we still got a couple games to go here.
All right, guys. Coach